In today's video, I'm going to be taking you through what's going on in the shop right now with this oversized, L-shaped vanity, even though right now it's not in any particular order. It's not in an L shape, but this is how I had to lay it out because of the size of my shop. And so you're going to see me working around a lot of things. I definitely need some more room already. So I'm going to show you guys how to install these Inserta Blum Cliptop tool-free hinges. I'm going to show you how to install 3 hinges on a large heavy door. These are soft close. So self-closing, soft closing, and I'm going to show you a couple of ways to install the hinge plates, easy ways to do it, and I'm going to show you how to use spacer blocks and show you also how to get the markings for where the hinge plates need to be in relation to how you're going to bore out the hinge and the direct way that you're going to clip everything on and everything's going to line up perfectly. All right, let's get started. I'm going to be making some MDF slab doors, and I'm going to show you how I install the Blum Inserta tool-free clip hinges, and I'm going to show you how I use a spacer block to get those plates on there super quick, and a jig that helps me mark out where the screw holes are going to go 37 millimeters back from the front of the cabinet. If you haven't already found out, then you'll find out sooner or later from watching my videos, but the cabinet system is a 32 millimeter system worldwide. I use metric because it just makes it easier for me when I'm making cabinets. Now, everybody does it their own way. If you want to, use your imperial that you're using, you've been using that your whole life. I've been using that my whole life too. Okay, so I shut off the air filtration system. I just installed an air filtration system in the shop because, cutting a lot of the material every day, day in and day out, there's a lot of dust flying around and overspray and stuff when I do the finishes, and that traps like everything. I have a noticeable difference of when I come in the shop. I let it run. There's a timer on it. I let it run for like 2 or 3 hours after I leave the shop, and then it shuts itself down. So I run it all day when I'm working. 2 hours, 3 hours after I leave the shop, it shuts itself down. I come in the morning and I don't have any of that fine sawdust all over the floor that I used to have all over the place. And you know what? When I'm doing a finish, that traps all the overspray too, and I don't have any of the overspray on any of the tools or any of the on the floor or any powder on any of my parts. So it's working out pretty good. MDF. This cabinet is going to get, well, you can see behind me, it's this really like behemoth of a vanity system. They're not in any particular order. As a matter of fact, this whole 7-foot linen cabinet is going to be down on the other end. So let's get started here. You got to wear a respirator and goggles and hearing protection and everything when you're cutting, but more so when you cut MDF. This stuff's real nasty. This client wants a really modern looking Euro style cabinets, full slab doors like at this size, and you can't use plywood because it'll turn into a potato chip. So we got to use MDF for that. So it's going to be really stable and stay nice and straight. We have to install all these doors and hinges first and pre-fit everything before we can go ahead and do the finish, so that we know that if we screw anything up, we can just fix it before the finish goes on. You don't want to screw anything up and then have to go back and fix it after the finish, because then you're just basically better off making new parts. So, all right, let's get started. I'm going to cut these parts to the size, and then we're going to install some of these doors. I'm going to show you an easy way to get these hinges on. It's really quick, and I'm going to just tell you right now, really fast, if you're going to use hinges like this, the Inserta Cliptop and the 0 plates, if you're not buying these from a wholesale dealer, you need to go to a cabinet parts hardware wholesale supplier. You cannot go and just get these on Amazon, because you will pay triple or quadruple the amount of what I can get these for on my wholesale site. The only thing is these sites won't allow you to shop on there without being a business and having an EIN number. So if you're not a business and you need to get something like this, you need to find the right website that will allow you to make an account without having a federal tax number, an employment identification number, anything like I have. Like I'm an LLC, so I have an EIN number, so I can purchase these for a fraction of what a normal person could buy these for. Okay, so I have all the doors cut. I got some on my table saw, some here on the bench, and I got the 2 larger ones for the linen cabinet over there on the blind corner cabinet off to the side. So they're out of my way for the time being. I brought this machine over here and I've clamped it to the bench so it doesn't move. A couple of things. These machines, these hinge press machines, hinge boring machines, I should say, cost, you know, a couple of $100. So if you don't do this a lot, then you can just get one of those little handheld jigs that you clamp on there and then you pre-drill with a handheld drill. So you'll just clamp it on the door and measure out and mark each door, and then you'll have to drill them out. If you're doing it as a hobbyist, if you're doing it as a professional, there is the Blum mini press, I think there's a company called Grass, which also makes, it's comical because it's green, and it's just another version of the Blum mini press. And what that does is it bores out the hinge and the dowels like this machine does, has stop blocks like this machine does, but it also has a flip-up piece that has a press where if you're using the dowel ones that are not tool-free, like I'm using the tool-free dowel ones, if you're using the ones that are not tool-free, that will press it into the cabinet door also. Otherwise, you're going to have to take a block of wood or a special tool made by Blum and tap those hinges in with the dowel. If you're using just hinges with screws and not dowels, then you can just use a drill press and a 35mm bit, or you can use that handheld one. You don't have to spend the money on this. I spent the money on this because I thought I think I paid about $300 for this, and it came, with the two different heads. This is the 45mm separation with the dowel bits, 8mm dowel boring bits. That's exactly what I need. So that's what I have installed on here. I have the fence squared up, and I have stop blocks set at 88mm. Now, the reason I have them set at 88mm is because when I put the hinge plates on the cabinet, I use a 50mm spacer block, which allows the hinge screws to sit down 90mm to the center on the cabinet carcass. So I'm going to show you that in a second. I use this small little jig here that cost just a couple of bucks. I'll put the link to all these things in my description box below so you can check out all that stuff. And what I do is I use this side here. In the cabinet world, everything is, like I said, it's a 32mm system where everything's divisible by 32. And there's another couple of numbers that you need to know, which is that all of the hardware, the hinge plates and the shelf pin holes are all set back 37mm from the front of the cabinet. So basically, if you're putting in shelf pin holes and you're putting in your plates, you can go down the same amount from the top and the bottom, and your screw holes or your dowel holes, you can use those system screws. They're like fat threaded screws, nice and wide. Those actually really work well, and they fit into the 5mm shelf pin holes. So everything will line up, and you'll be able to just pop those in, no measuring, no marking. But I'm using these without those system screws, and from where I'm measuring from the top and the bottom, it's not going to interfere and give me those shelf pin holes where I'd be able to screw it in 37mm back. So what I'm going to do is bring you over to the carcass, and we're going to show you how to use this really quick, and then I'm going to install these and show you how quick this can be, and then I'm going to show you how I bore out the hinges, install those, and then pop them on the cabinet carcass. Okay, so this is the best angle that I can get you on this side of the cabinet. You can see here, this cabinet's going to get 2 doors. This one is going to get 1 door. I already have the hinge plates on there, and you can see how this 50mm spacer block actually allows me to just pop that hinge plate up against it and screw it in place. I want to take my hinge plate jig, and I want to make sure that I have it on the side for the setback being 37mm. On the front here, it has all the numbers. And the first thing I'm going to do is just put it in place just like that. And I'm going to put my pencil into the hole that's marked at 37mm, and I'm going to drag it down about that far from the bottom here. So first thing I'm going to do, just like I did on the top, just go into the 37mm hole and drag up a line. Then put this in place. And I'm using number 8 by 5/8 screws for this. You can see here, I'm going to put the hinge plate right in place, right up against there. And I'm just going to peek into the hinge plate and see that it's centered. I'll go ahead and put the screw in. Now, not only is it keeping it square to where I need it to be, but it's also keeping it at the height that I need it, which will help later on when I bore out the hinge hole on the doors. Now these particular hinge plates have a 3-hole pattern, which makes them super strong. And that's it. Pull the spacer block out, and now just flip it over, and I can do the same on the top. Okay, I'm ready to bore out the hinges. So what I've done is the placement I want the hinge on the door. I just made some little reference marks so I know which side I'm going to be drilling out. And then on the inside of that bore, I'm going to put the number of the door, and I'm going to put top or bottom. I'll put a T or a B. That's going to let me know which is the top of the door. So I can cover that with a piece of tape, so when I prime and paint everything, I know exactly which door it is and what cabinet it's going to go on. Yes, I can go by the measurements, but it's just super fast. And when you pull the tape off and you look and you see it and it says number 5 or number 9, boom, you pop it right in. All right, there's no good dust collection for this. I tried every which way. This thing's going to fling dust all over the place. So I tried hooking up a hose next to it with the dust extractor, and only just a little bit gets caught in there, and everything just flies all over the place. So it's not even worth the hassle. I'm going to use my stop blocks to make sure that the hinges are in line with my plates. Okay, now, so here is that door that I just bored out. I just realized that I should just put a small piece of plywood on both sides of the machine, and that'll kind of stop the dust from going in the dog holes right here on the bench and making a mess underneath my bench. All right, so the Inserta hinges now they have these dowels here that when you press them, the tool-free piece in it expands those dowels and it bites right into the MDF. And then if you want to release it, it has a little tab right here. Use a flathead screwdriver, pops it right out. So I'll just go ahead and line it up. And okay, got it in there. Just press it in just like that. And then take your top and just slap it in just like that. Once you get it in there, that's it. It's, sitting real tight, and it bites into the MDF very well. Okay, now I got those in. Now let's go over to the cabinet and just clip it on. Now usually these are pretty much close to adjustment. I'll have to do some fine tuning, but let's just clip it on and see how we did. Get the top piece in, and then the bottom slaps right in, and then soft close, just like that. Come on, a little quicker. I can already see that it definitely needs to be moved back just a little bit because it's out a little bit too far. And then this side here is actually really good. 2mm perfect reveal all around. I don't even have to mess with that. So now for this upper cabinet here and the lower cabinet, these have much longer doors, and so they need more support. So they're going to need 3 hinges. So an easy way to do it is you just take the spacer block and you put the first plate on the top, and then you attach the other hinges and keep the hinge plates on the hinges. And then once you clip in the top, you let the hinge follow itself down and put it on the line, make that hinge plate line up with the line, and it's still connected to the hinge, and you can just screw it in place, and it just settles itself in. And it works really well with the center one, so you really don't have to do any math on that at all, except for get the middle of your door, put the hinge in the middle of the door, and leave the hinge plate attached, and then you'll let it find its own little equilibrium, I should say, and then you could screw it in place. So what we'll do is we'll take the jig that we used to mark out the 37mm, and then we'll scribe the line down like we normally do from the top, so that we know we can use a little spacer block and put the top hinge plate in. The bottom, on a separation piece like this, you would think that you'd be able to just use this on the bottom, but because you needed a reveal in between the top and the bottom doors, you're only able to go on an 18mm wide piece of plywood. You only can go 7 down, then 7 up, and then have your reveal in the middle of the doors, which you need. So basically, it's a lot harder to start messing around with your stop block and doing the math than to just let it find its own equilibrium. So we're going to hook up the top one first, and then we're going to let the bottom one and the middle ones find their own space. So I'm going to say this is around the center right here. So I'm just going to kind of make a mark here. And you can see where I make those pencil marks, it's actually in the center of these shelf pin holes. So there is the best way for me to basically do this is to measure the center, mark it, and then see if I can avoid those holes, or I'll have to just go and grab my 5mm system screws and I'll punch them right in there. Okay, so I'm going to put these 3 hinges in. Okay. Now when you have a door this large, you have to have a middle hinge. You need 3 hinges. Any larger than this, you need 4 hinges. Otherwise, it's just going to sag on you. Now I'm going to let the hinges dictate where they're going to fall. I have the other plates already attached to the hinges. So I'm just going to walk it over, clip it in. I'm going to let them find their equilibrium. And then I have my lines already. So I'm just going to line those up and then screw those in. Okay, so you can see that I have the top hinge ready to go, and the center and the bottom, they have the hinge plates attached to them. So what I'm going to do is clip the top on first. Get that piece in line. And then, okay, now that's clipped in place. I can get down and I'm gonna look to see where my line is centered, which is right there. Now I have one in the bottom that's supporting it. I can let go of the door, lined up. Now these have 3 screws, so what I'll have to do is unclip the hinge to put the 3rd screw in. So what I'll do in the meanwhile is attach the middle hinge first, so that I know that I have everything sitting good and I'll be able to adjust it and I'll have support everywhere. And you can see I just missed where the holes line up. So if I would have, done the math exact and made the measurements and everything, I could have did that, but it would have been a little bit off-centered, but I could have used the system screw and put that in there. But this is just as strong. Okay, so now we could adjust the door a little bit, because I'm not going to go crazy adjusting it fully because I have to pull it back off to do the finish. But this is looking pretty good. Pretty good. Could go back just a little bit this way, so I could do that later on. That's a really heavy door. Even though it's the ultralight MDF, weighing on these hinges for a long time, so you definitely have to put at least 3 hinges. Any longer than this, you got to go 4. So we're going to do a same thing on the bottom. Okay, so now you can see I have the plate on the top attached to the hinge. I really can't get you a good angle on this cabinet because the saw is in the way. Okay, and I'm just gonna hold it in place, get it centered with my mark, drive the screw home. Now, I really like this, installing the hinges this way, especially the tool-free method of getting them on the doors and just being able to pop them on and off. Love it. Super simple, super fast. And I gotta tell you, they're pretty much already adjusted. They're like on the money. There's very little to do. You can see here I have to go in a little bit from both ends just to, maybe close that gap slightly. You could see on this one, I didn't even touch it, and this one was already pretty much set. Okay guys, well that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you get something out of it. I hope you learned something today on how to install these hinges, how much time they save you. Like I said, you don't need crazy fancy tools. If you don't want to get a hinge boring machine, if you don't have a need for one, they have the handheld jigs. The only thing is that you're going to have to drill out the dowel holes for the 8mm dowel pins. You're going to have to find a way to drill that out separately because the handheld ones, they only come with the markings for like a 1/16 of an inch drill bit to put in there. So what you can do is you can punch through that with the little 1/16 and then use a brad point bit and then drill out those dowel holes after you bore your 35mm cup for the hinge, because this machine does it all in one shot, so it makes it a lot quicker. When you have to drill each individual one on every door, I mean, I did this, like I got all these doors in there, I got one door left, and I'll just do that off camera, you know, to save even more time not having to film it. But I mean, each door has taken me like literally about 5 minutes, you know, per door. So that's a big time saver right there. So if you have a lot of doors and you're only spending 3 to 5 minutes on each door, I could probably do it now with the clip top. Actually, I'm spending even less time. I'm probably spending about 2 minutes on each door, because once I punch out the cup hinges with this all in one shot, I already have the hinge plates. You know, I bang them on with the spacer block and screw them in really fast, and then just pop the hinges on. And aside from the large doors that have 3 hinges, the ones, regular size cabinets, like the base ones right there, and even uppers, ones that have just the regular 2 hinges. I mean, it's, you know, quick, 1-2 minute deal. You put the screws in there, you have your marks and everything, and then you just pop the tool-free hinge in and then clip everything on. You can adjust it later, like I said, after everything is installed, because you're gonna have to readjust anyway. I have to pull all these hinges back off just to do all the finish and everything. And they pop off real easy. You take a flathead screwdriver, there's a little tab underneath, you pop that, and then the tool-free plate opens up. That's the plate that you press in to make the dowels expand, and then you just pull the hinge right out, mark your door, and start finishing. Okay guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you next time. We have a lot to do. I got to get moving on this job. So have a great weekend, everybody, and I will see you next time. Check the links below in the description box for all the tools that I use. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the picture of a notification bell. It's going to notify you every time I upload a new video. All right, guys, I'll catch you next time.